Yes. What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night, 10 o'clock Central Time. You guys know what that means. Every Saturday that we got UFC, it means on Tuesday at 10, we got Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, where I give you just the tip of the stats on all 12 fights that are coming up on this weekend's UFC Vegas 64 card that will hopefully be headlined by Amanda Lemos versus Marina Rodriguez if Amanda Lemos can get to Las Vegas in time to cut weight and be in this fight because of the political unrest right now in Brazil because of Bolsonaro losing the election, people in the streets protesting. She can't get out of the country. So she's supposed to get a flight out of Sao Paulo, I guess, tonight. But we have to wait and see. But that is supposed to be the main event. But if it isn't, they're going to have to pivot to D-Rod versus Magny, I think. But either way, it's an interesting card, to say the least. It's not my favorite betting card of the year by a long shot. But, you know, I've always said the cards that are the best cards of the year are the ones where you make the most money. We do this because we like winning bets. We like stacking cash tickets like flapjacks. So let's try to find ways to do exactly that on this card by putting in a little bit of research here, looking at these numbers, talking about the tape study notes, and seeing if we can find angles and places to bet on this really sketchy card. But let's see what's going on with you guys in the chat here tonight. The first person in here was my guy Mushroom, of course. One unit, meaning one mushroom lunch, saying, "Oi, yes, first. What up, Uncle Weezy? Hope you're well. 4 more sleeps and 5 more mushroom lunches until violence." Definitely, my man. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. We got Bob Spikerman's checking in all the way from the Netherlands, saying, "Oi, Weezy, let's stack them up. And remember, guys, with these judges, all we have to cap nowadays is to find winning bets, is to see which fighter has been on Rogan's weak-ass podcast or had some interaction with Rogan. Watch back the Frey versus Demopoulos fight, which cost me 2 units for this week's research. Only reason I can come up with for Demopoulos winning that fight is because she jumped in Joe Rogan's arms. And she did it. Oh, was that the Frey fight, or was that the fight before that she did that? Either way, she got the decision there, and it was a close fight. I mean, I don't know who won that one. But I wasn't really impressed with either one of them in that fight. But at least we did see Vanessa Demopoulos actually start to get takedowns, which could be, it could make her a problem because she's got a little bit of power. Vanessa does. She landed a knockout on the regional scene in LFA, in between her Contender Series loss to McKenna and her UFC debut, where she cleaned this girl's clock in like 15 seconds, 1-punch knockout. She's got a little bit of power. So, if Vanessa could start to wrestle, get the fights to the ground and employ that jiu-jitsu, she might be somebody that can win some fights at 115. But Jinh Frey is somebody that we will be talking about in detail this week. And, yeah, it's that kind of card, everybody. Excuse me. We got my guy Victor De Jesus in the room saying, "Oh, yes. What's up, Weezy in chat, keeping the betting kind of light this week. We'll probably mismanage my bankroll next week, though. Yeah, do it next week for UFC 281. Much higher level fights, bigger sample sizes to draw from, more information that we have on our side. It'll help us to make better decisions. But usually also those lines are a little more fairly priced sometimes because there is more information. There's more tape. There's more of a history to draw from. But yeah, this one here, we got a lot of small sample sizes. We got a lot of interesting fights, but yeah, we'll get into it. My guy Jazz in the room, JSJ23, saying, "Oi, what's up, Unk? Anyone with heavy action on this card is a danger to society." Dude, I tend to agree, but some people like their bets. If you've got a read and you're very confident in that read, you have to act on it. I'm not getting it this week, you guys. I look at these cards every damn week. Rain or shine, good card or bad card. Your Uncle Weezy doesn't get to take one off, So I go into researching a card like this that from the surface looks bad, and I say to myself, let's find the good spots, though. Let's find the good in the bad and make money from it. Man, I've done the research Still looking, you guys. Jenna Marie is in the room. What is going on, Jenna? Good to see you hanging out as always. We got JSJ saying we need a GoFundMe to get Brady a new TV ASAP. Yeah, dude, if you guys didn't see, Brady absolutely trashed his TV with a baseball bat while screaming no after watching Tamares Vidal's tape. The poor guy. I can absolutely relate. And if he hadn't told me that he had done that, I might have done it to my own TV. But I tried to learn from the mistake that Brady made, which really wasn't a mistake. It was just the reaction of a man who's had enough. And we've all gotten to that point where it's like, I'm here. And then you watch that Tamares Vidal versus Alan Perez fight, and then you just bring out the baseball bat and destroy your TV. And it makes you feel better for a short period of time before you realize, Christ, I got to get a new TV. We got Dan Goldstein in the room. What's up, dude? Saying, Weezy, I never expect anyone who wears a smoking jacket to even mention the Pascual versus Vidal fight. I did, so you don't have to. It can hang in the air like a fart and we can move on, brother. I absolutely agree with you, Dan. It's a rough one, man. We got my guy Buffo on the beat saying, Weezis, what's up, dude? Good to see you hanging out in here, brother. I always see Buffo on the Pub Sports live broadcast that we do the watch-alongs every Saturday. Good to see you hanging out, my man. We got Daz Files saying, oi, this card is all girls, injuries, and Brazil. Hope they get to weigh-ins. Hi, everyone. My guy Daz Files. Too real for Pub Sports Radio. For some reason, he's blocked in there. But, you know, I always welcome the realness here. And Daz Files is always welcome here on Uncle Weezy's channel. We want the realness. We want to give you the realest looks. And we got the realest chat in the game, man. We got Dan Goldstein saying Jake Hadley had people tricked last time out when he came in as a Division I wrestler out of the Cock and Bull pub in Cornwall, England. But I think those grappling credentials will be enough this time around. Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, Dan. Also, you got to have some kind of X factor to come in with a fight name like White Kong. Yeah, I remember hearing that nickname for the first time, and I was like, White Kong? I don't know about that one, especially for a 125-pounder. You know, take some balls. Daz File is saying, hey, Dan, sub 1/2 Hadley, Viana, Minner. Oh, sub 1-2 Hadley, Viana, Minner, Maverick. Be cool if a ton of subs card. Yeah, I like those. Hadley, Viana sub, Minner sub, all good looks. How is White Kong? Who is White Kong? That's Jake Hadley, my man. Dan Goldstein saying, what's up, Daz? Jake, White Kong, Hadley. We have 2 Caucasians with 8 names on this card. It might be a parlay, like my JP Bay's most hated people parlay that last week that cashed LOL. Durden to Lindsay. That's awesome. Dan saying, what's up to chat? To Mushroom. Daz Val saying, cool one. Hi, Mushroom. We got everybody saying hello to everybody else. We got Dan saying, following a Jared Vandera fight week, it's only fitting that we get one of his many fathers fighting the week following. Chase Sherman, the man who beat autism. Daz File is saying, I bet Sherman and Hope Parisian fall on him and finish him on the mat. Yeah, dude, that's how Fat Collier got him down, was he caught a kick and then he just kind of tree-topped him. Sherman fell on his ass, and then Collier just beach whaled him and finished that fight, man. So yeah, if Parisian gets him down, Parisian's gonna look good, man. Papa Chuck says, how are my people on this lovely Tuesday? What's going on, Papa Chuck? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got Lou Betya in the room saying, Weezy, what are the odds of a clam bag special this week? I'm feeling it in fight 1. In fight 1, I will look and see here, because I always tell my man Lou that the science of the clam bag is you want an orthodox versus southpaw, because when you have the open-ended looks, the sack shot is a little more open for business, so to speak, from your power side. And it's the power side sack shots that really bring the fouls. So it's not Vidal versus Pascual, as I can tell. Viana versus Frey, orthodox versus southpaw. That could be a clam bag shot. And then we could have for the main event, Rodriguez versus Lemos, another Orthodox versus Southpaw. They throw a lot of kicks, both of them. We can see clam bag shots there too. So I think it would be the last two. The first fight I'm probably just going to spend in the bathroom puking. Dude, Victor de Jesus saying, what's up to Mushroom? We got Dan Goldstein saying, I have zero investment. That fight gives me diabetes thinking about it, Daz. Good luck, brother. What's up, Chuck? Hey, Papa Chuck. Hey, Victor. Dan saying, Luke, can I step out a clam bag from 50 paces? And there's definitely some seafood shower brewing here. That Vidal bird could try and milk one. Hell yeah. It's as good as a Henderson High School scrap. Dan Goldstein saying, Dad, that could be a top. That fight could be sloppily than a Samoan and a Tongan adolescent going at it. Same weight, though. All I'll say is Sherman and Parisian ain't no Huggy Bear Chris Barnett. If it ain't Huggy Bear, we just don't care. I'm with you, man. DJ saying, oi! And we got DJ saying Parisian versus Sherman for the interim. Yeah, where the fuck is Ngannou anyway? Is he just trying to get paid? Because I know that he was hurt and he was going to have to rehab that knee after he beat Gane. But it feels like it's been a year already, so he should be back in there. Yeah, Parisian versus Sherman for the interim. That would be hilarious. Going like two. We got M.A. Laren saying, any news if Lemos, Viana, and Vidal are still stuck in Brazil? So I heard Lemos is going to be the last one out. I think Viana and Vidal did get out, but I'm not 100% positive on that. Don't mention Huggy Bear have lost 8 units betting against that elite fighter. I heard Lemos is running a Bolsonaro-backed militia of all women with frightening hair. She might not make it for frightening hair. What's up, fellow D-Gens? We got Nigel Lee in the room. We got M.A. Laren saying, oi, hello, everybody. What a terrible event from a fan standpoint, but looking great for betting. I don't think it's great for betting, but if you got your leans, go at them, man. LOL, Daz, I made 6 mushroom lunches units, blind betting Huggy and his dance moves. Big black and athletic cashes. Yes, it does. Oh, my God. You guys are awesome, man. We got Boob in the room saying, oi, anything better than 4 WMMA fights with 2 being large favorites? Surely this will go well. Yeah, nothing can go wrong when you bet on juiced women's favorites. Nothing can go wrong. I cashed a big one on O'Malley. That was a good one to cash. TV show, Ahad TV has show going and YouTube doesn't. We got Any Action MMA saying, glad to finally make it to one of the live streams again. Let's go. Oh, what's up, Any Action? Good to see you hanging out in here. Hit the like, says Daz Files. Please do that. And please hit the subscribe, you guys, if you haven't yet. It'll keep you up to date on the greasy 4-leg parlays I put out every week when I go live every Wednesday night for Ask Weezy. Give you a notification for just the tip every Tuesday night. I'm almost at 2,000 subscribers here. So if you are the 2,000 subscriber, you will receive absolutely nothing but the satisfaction of the fantastic content that you get from Uncle Weezy's channel for free every damn week. What's up, dude? And we got Juster saying, Sherman, at least to me, seems a lot more motivated. We have seen it time and time again. Fighters get a second chance and thrive. Yeah, man. It is important, man, because you need to know what it's like out there when you're not at the UFC level, when people don't care as much about your fights, and you're expected to kind of carry a regional scene card now, and you're fighting lower level guys, but guys that probably have just as much of a chance to beat you because they're hungry and up and coming. So, yeah, it's good to see Sherman come out there and get that win against Vandera. He looked good there, and Vandera didn't fight to his weaknesses. So, yeah, man, it was a good spot for him. Dan Goldstein saying this card is the Darren Till pink eye of cards. Yeah, man, it is absolutely awful. Jan H., greetings from Belgium. What's up, Jan? Good to see you hanging out in here. We got Antonio Esparza say, hey, Unc, what's up? What a weird fight week. No props up yet. And there's like 3 fights in jeopardy because Brazilian fighters are having trouble getting over to Vegas. It's a crazy week, Antonio. It's nuts, man. Nigel Lee saying, you're giving it too much credit, Dan. And we got Chris saying, what's up, Uncle Hefner? Oh, what's up, Chris? Good to see you hanging out in here, brother. Dan Goldstein, the choice was this. It is the Darren Till's pink eye or the Jordan Levitt's herpes of fight cards. Yikes. My God. And I think Nigel Lee's right. You did make the right call. We got the Cuban assassin in the room saying, "What it do, Weezy? White Kong sounds like a male dirty magazine for fat chicks." I'm going to sip on just a little bit of cognac after that one, Cuban assassin. Oh my God. And ring a ding ding. We got the first donation of the night from one of the best and most loyal ever since day one guys who's watched my content. Daz Files, big shout out to you, brother, saying, "Thanks, Weezy. Here's $10 from Dan and I for a jug at the Potter's Wheel Pub." I appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for the donation, man. Keeping the light here in Uncle Weezy's studio. I appreciate you, my man. We got to get into this card. And Jenna Marie's saying, "Oi, Weezy." What's up, Jenna? What up, my friends in the chat? She says, Rob Lawrence saying, "This is the spiciest room ever. Love it." Jay saying, "What up, homies? What up, Weezy?" Martin Durmov saying, "Ramona Thickums fight week." You got that right, brother. We got Boob saying, "Let's get Jake Paul versus Ngannou." I mean, I'd love to see that. And we got Jay saying, "I love the UFC heavyweight division. It's hilarious." It is, man. I'm convinced UFC bringing in some of these heavyweights for comic relief. If that's the case, they got to bring Fat John Vellante out of retirement because the comic relief on that dude is absolutely brilliant, especially as a heavyweight, man. Jenna Marie saying, "Like and subscribe, folks." I appreciate you, Jenna. We got Rick Sanchez saying, "Hey, Weez, love you, man." I love you too, Rick Sanchez. We got Addicted to Combat, my guy Patrick in the room saying, "Unk, it's time for my Tuesday night cigar with just a tip. I'll join you with a little bit of cognac here, my man." I appreciate you hanging out. We got my guy DFS by the numbers in the room saying, "Someone, this card is great for betting." Then went on to say Ramona Pascual is one of the best spots in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, I know, man. And I mean, I understand it's a plus money spot. That's usually what side you want to be on in women's MMA. And, you know, we got a woman making her debut against Pascual, who's fought UFC competition for the last 2 fights. But we'll talk about that fight. We're going to talk about that fight, you guys, right now, man. Brady, you need to distance yourself from those kind of people. We got Creed Dan, what up, Mushroom? All right, you guys. And Bob Spikeman saying, "Let's get that minute round one sub this week." I couldn't agree more, man. And Nigel Lee saying, "I see certain cappers with shows making Ramona a play. I just got to skip low-level women's MMA fight." Yeah, man, I hear you, dude. And any action saying, "I am betting every women's fight this card because I am a savage." You have to be, man. Marcus Mustard saying, "What up, UFC fight fans?" We got Mushroom saying, "Phillies." I heard they were shaving ass today. But you guys, let's get into it. Let me share my screen with you guys. And right now, it's a great time to join the Patreon, you guys. It's the first of the month. The stats that you see on the screen here every week are available on the Patreon, and you can see them here on the show, of course, for free. But when you're with the Patreon, you get them about almost a week before. I usually get them out Wednesday or Thursday of the week before, so that we can look at the numbers, start our research a little bit early, and then when those lines do open, especially on the props, we can maybe find spots that we already like. So first of the month, $5 a month to get the basic stats package, $20 a month for the prop template, which I'm in the process of reworking again in order to try to get a feed from the lines straight to the prop template so it updates as the lines change. But need a little tech help in order to get that done. But check out the Patreon. No better time to do it than the first of the month. But let's start with the first fight of the night, which is going to be Ramona Pascual at plus 119 going up against Tamares Vidal. Tamares? Is it Tamares? Tamares? Vidal, minus 139. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus 175. So I got the stats up on the screen. So let me tell, it's the 1st of November. And you know what your Uncle Weezy loves about November? My favorite holiday is in November, Thanksgiving. I love Thanksgiving. There's football on all day. I get to eat a mushroom Philly style lunch that's like 3 platefuls of just turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy and all the great stuff that we get to eat on Thanksgiving, right? And if your family is anything like mine this year, you're going to have some people that are probably liberals, some people that are probably conservatives, and they're going to be yapping back and forth with their shit about, the liberal will say to the conservative, yeah, well, thanks for taking away women's rights to choose and make decisions about when they start families. And, oh, yeah, well, that's what we want is more families so that your bum ass Democrats can vote, Democrat and ruin all the big cities. And, oh, yeah, the big cities, these small towns with all you premises, that's so much better, right? And then everybody just starts fighting, and it always winds up ending up in a food fight, and somebody's in a headlock, and grandma's kicking somebody's ass, and every year it happens, right? And nobody ever gets anywhere. Nothing gets solved, and I always have to be the fucking adult in the room who stands up and says, "Oh, you're all fucking wrong. All politicians suck. All politicians steal our money. They all lie, and you defend half of them, and you think the other half suck. Well, they all suck. Somebody has to be the adult in the room, and the adult in the room always has to be the anarchist. It's never the Republican. It's never the Democrat. The anarchist has to be the adult in the room. And some of you guys are saying, Uncle Weezy, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, the anarchist in the room at Thanksgiving is the MMA bettor who's not touching Tamares Vidal versus Ramona Pascual with a 10 fucking foot pole. Okay? That's what the anarchist in the room is doing. Because see, like the Democrat who's on the Tamares Vidal side is screaming across the table to the conservative, oh, so you're gonna bet on Pascual, huh? You're gonna bet on Pascual on somebody that's never fought at 135 pounds at the UFC level yet, and she couldn't make the cut even close last time and had to ask for a catchweight bout. Her fat ass is going to cut down to 135 and then perform against somebody like Vidal who's fought there several times. That's who you're fucking betting. And then the Pascual bettor goes back across the table and says to the Vidal bettor, oh yeah, and you're going to fucking lay juice on the MMA debutante whose tape made me puke up my fucking turkey and mashed potatoes. That's who you're going to fucking bet on. And you're going to lay minus 139 and you're telling me how to spend my fucking money? Are you fucking kidding me? And then the fight starts. And then me, the anarchist in the room, Uncle Weezy has to step up and say, oi, stop it. All of you. You shouldn't bet on this fight at all, you dumb fucks. Why are you betting on Ramona Pascual to beat anybody UFC level? She would have to win the fight. And then why would you bet on a UFC debutante whose tape looks like absolute dog shit, even though her opponent is garbage? And you're going to do that on a debutante now who's coming from a political situation in Brazil that looks like total garbage. She doesn't even get to Vegas until like Wednesday and then has to immediately cut weight, get in the sauna, and get ready for a Friday morning weigh-in. That's who you're betting? You don't bet either. You move on to the next fight. Because no matter who you bet in this fight, it's probably going to decision, you guys. Fight doesn't go to decision is juiced up to plus 175. They're not expecting it to finish inside the distance. So then whoever you guys are planting your flag on which side, and most of you, it's the Pascual side, now you're going to have to count on the judges making the right decision. And then what's going to happen? You're going to hold that ticket crying about Ben Cartilage's dumbass or Sal D'Amato's dumbass or Adelaide Bird's dumbass or Chris Lee's dumbass or Junichiro Kamijo's dumbass or whoever the dumbass is that winds up giving that 10-9 to Vidal in the second round when she only landed 3 significant strikes and did nothing. Do you want to be that guy? Huh? No, you don't. Pass on this fight. But I do have to make a prediction. This is what is going to be a new thing that I'm going to just start doing here. So we got the official prediction. We're doing Ramona Pascual versus Tamares Vidal. You can follow me, my old Tapology nickname, Vic Vinegar, from Honey and Vinegar Realty, for those of you that are Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans. Vic Vinegar, you can follow me there on Tapology. You can follow my picks, but the pick is going to be Ramona Pascual by decision over Tamares Vidal. You guys, I respect Brady's opinion a lot. He watched Tamares Vidal's tape and smashed his television with a baseball bat. Okay? I watched the tape and was able to save my own TV. I contained my rage and I kept it inside, which is what a man does. They keep it inside to only have it explode out later at a very, inconvenient time. But that's another story for another time. The pick is going to be Pascual by decision, and I beg of you, don't bet this fight. The next fight, you guys, is going to be Carlos Candelario against Jake Hadley. We got Candelario is checking in at plus 210. Big underdog here. Jake Hadley, the minus 250 favorite, coming off a loss against Alan Nascimento. Fight doesn't go to decision, plus money at plus 155. They say this fight goes to decision about 39% of the time on an implied probability for plus 155. So we got Jake Hadley's younger here, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. This is a southpaw versus southpaw fight. So both guys' jab are going to be working. It's probably not something that they're used to when they're fighting orthodox fighters, being able to really kind of set things up with their jab. Candelario probably that might benefit him being the guy that has the Golden Gloves boxing experience in his past. But when we look at the experience numbers here, they're very similar. Candelario has one more fight. Hadley has about 13 more minutes in the pro cage. But Candelario has been fighting for 3 years longer. So it's Hadley who's been a lot more active as a professional, and Candelario who's definitely been only fighting about 1.25 times per year. And he took a lot of time off in between the loss I think he got the win against Candido on the Contender Series, but he got injured, and because he didn't get the contract, he just retired. And then he wound up getting another opportunity on the Contender Series and decided to come back and fight Altamirano. So Hadley's been the better finisher as a pro and at the UFC level, and neither one of these guys has ever been finished in a loss. Candelario absorbs more significant strikes than he lands. Hadley also absorbs more than he lands, but Hadley at 70% striking defense, 43% for Candelario, and Hadley is spending a lot more time in grappling positions, as about 72% of Hadley's fights, if we add this number here to this number here, are taking place in control time positions for or against, while for Candelario, it's about 40% of his UFC experience has been in control time positions for or against. But actually, that number isn't right, because the Candido fight on the Contender Series did not have control time numbers on it, and Candelario spent about more than half of that fight being controlled. So I would say about 9 more minutes would put him up about 18 minutes to 20 minutes. He's probably been controlled about 40% of his UFC cage time. The way I see this fight playing out is almost exactly like we saw Tatsuro Taira versus Candelario play out. Jake Hadley is primarily a grappler. He's a decent wrestler, but what he's really, really good at is getting to your back. And I mean, if you were to describe Tatsuro Taira's grappling, that's how you would describe it. You would say, Tatsuro doesn't have great wrestling, but what he can do is chain wrestle and then get to your back. So Candelario has terrible takedown defense, 53% takedown defense. He's yielding 4.33 takedowns for 15 minutes, and his opponents are getting him in such bad positions and doing such a good job of controlling him on the ground that they're able to attempt 2.67 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So this guy Candelario is very easy to get to the ground and control for long swaths of time. And that's exactly how Hadley wins fights. Now, Hadley has serviceable striking. If this were to be a 15-minute boxing match, I couldn't even really guarantee that Candelario would cleanly win that. I think Hadley has striking that looks very technically sound, and I think he can use it very well to set up his wrestling. So I think Hadley is more dangerous more dangerous in the grappling exchanges here. Even though Candelario is a black belt, the lack of takedown defense worries me And even he has got 7 of his 21 takedown attempts, but his opponents have attempted 28. He's attempted 21, but his opponents are getting almost twice as many takedowns because Carlos gets 1 of 3, but he stops almost like about 1 of 2. So he's easy to get down and hold down. I think this fight just plays out a lot like Tatsuro Taira versus Carlos Candelario. These guys are both extremely difficult to finish. Minus 190 for the fight goes to decision is something that I think is a good play, but I don't get in the habit of laying juice like that. But minus 190 is something that I do think happens. The pick is going to be Jake Hadley by decision, and I'm thinking of making that bet. I would like to find it at a better price than where I've seen it so far, but the pick is going to be Hadley by decision, and if I'm just going to refresh my best fight odds and see what the best line we can find right now on Hadley by decision. And it is minus 125. I would love to get plus money on that number. And if I do, it might be something I bet. But we've got no props out anywhere, you guys. So it's kind of a frustrating week. I don't have any tracked bets thus far. There are some spots I like that stood out in the time props. When we were doing probability last night on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. The link to that is in the description of this video if you want to get a really good data-driven look at all the time props on this card and how my analytics kind of determine whether the bets are overpriced or underpriced. I do like fight goes to decision here, and I like Jake Hadley to win by decision, but I would love to get that bet at plus money because getting a decision prop and having to pay juice is something a lot of things got to go right for you. The judges got to get it right, and there can't be a banana peel situation or an early stoppage or an injury or any of those kind of things. So Hadley by decision is the pick. The next fight is one that, boy, I don't really know what to do with here. Liudivik Sholinian at plus 200 is a big underdog, 33% implied probability to win the fight, 33.33%. And Johnny Munoz Jr., the favorite at minus 235. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 155 for this fight. So if we get the stats up on the screen here for this one, we can see that Munoz is 3 years younger than Sholinian, and they have the same reach, and they are listed of almost the same height here, orthodox for both of them. If we look at the experience numbers as professional mixed martial artists, almost the same amount of fights, almost the same length of pro career, almost the identical amount of cage time. It's just Munoz has 3 UFC fights, Sholinian only 1, but Sholinian was in the UFC, was in the Ultimate Fighter House. So he got some, that's really like a crash course on MMA, working with top-level UFC fighters as coaches and their camps. So I would say that Sholinian and Munoz are basically identical in not only UFC experience, but professional experience. Munoz, the much more gifted finisher. He is finishing 82% of his professional wins inside the distance. That's 9 of 11. While for Sholinian, it's 4 of 9. And he hasn't really finished anybody of note. Sholinian has never been finished, and Munoz has been knocked out once in his 2 losses. So if we look at the numbers at the UFC level, we got to call Munoz the better striker, but I mean, I don't really know that that's the case. It's just stylistic matchups that drive the small sample size of stats that we have for this fight. So we can't really talk that much about the stats. Munoz has got 3 fights and 23 minutes of cage time, and we're only counting Sholinian's fight against Jack Shore, where he just got dominated. He landed 19 significant strikes, and Shore landed 92. Sholinian was 0 of 4 on his takedowns, and Shore was 2 of 8 on his takedowns. So Johnny Munoz Jr. is not Jack Shore, though. Let's be very clear about that. And Shore was a big favorite, and rightfully so. I think Sholinian took that fight on short notice, but this guy Sholinian can wrestle, man. And if he can wrestle and he can keep this fight standing, I promise you Johnny Munoz Jr. isn't going to look minus 235 if this fight is standing for 12 and a half out of 15 minutes. Liudivik just, when he fought Jack Shore, I remember thinking to myself while I was watching that fight, holy shit, I didn't know Jack Shore's boxing was this good. And I don't know if that reaction that I had was as a result of Sholinian just not being a talented stand-up fighter, or if Jack Shore really had made that many more improvements in his stand-up game. Sholinian has fought the better brand of competition at the UFC level, but Maness and Gravely are both very tough opponents for Munoz. And the Jamie Simmons, you would expect him to shave Simmons' ass, and he did exactly that. Actually, Munoz Jr. was Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week against Jamie Simmons, and he made it look pretty easy. But, something that Munoz did there, too, was he struck a lot in that first round, and I was screaming at the television, go and take this dude down. But it took him a minute to do that. It took him until the second round to get Jamie Simmons. So I guess what I'm looking at here is I just don't think that you want to lay minus 235 on Johnny Munoz Jr. Munoz is an absolutely fantastic grappler. You watch this guy, operate on the mat, and you're like, damn, he's smooth. He chains submissions together beautifully. He's going from one attack to another to another. He's relentless, very, very aggressive, almost too aggressive, as he will favor submission over position as a grappler. But that flashiness, I think, is what's driving this line to be entirely too wide. Look, you guys, the last 3 wins for Johnny Munoz Jr. are against Jamie Simmons, Ian King, and Rencent Atgantulga. Sholinian has fought decent guys. If we look at Sholinian, I believe I got him up here. Sholinian has a win over UFC veteran Vince Cachero. He fought Yuma Horiuchi, who just I believe lost on the road to UFC to Topnam Kirwai. But he's, this guy Yoriuchi is a decent fighter. He fought Raposo in the house. He fought Tercios in the house. He's fought Jake Shore, a veteran in Sidemore Honorio. He's got some decent names on his resume. I mean, the other wins against Eduardo 0-0, Boravchik 0-0, Alexander Morgan, no record listed, Bakiev 0-0, Yakiyev 0-0, Avakamian, Mischenko, Petrov 4-0, he had a draw against in M1. But he's fought the better brand of competition in comparison to Munoz. Munoz's wins, like I said, these are Uriel Casio Dominguez 8-4, Anthony Zender 7-11, Mauricio Diaz 3-2, Zane Douglas 2-4, Musa Tolliver 9-10, Gore Minatskinayan 2-2, Carlos. These aren't great wins, you guys. King of the Cage. He was in King of the Cage before he got to the UFC. A lot of low-level fighters there. So the loss to Maness, the loss to Gravely, I don't think he should be a minus 235 favorite. I don't think you should be laying that on him. Munoz by submission. Because Munoz is a guy, Sholinian's a wrestler. If Sholinian can take him down and stay safe from the submissions and win minutes on the ground, past the half guard, past the side control, if he's able to do that, he could be in a position to win a lot of minutes and get a win here. So Junior by submission is plus 375. I think I'd play him like that because, Johnny Munoz Jr. is not really a minute winner anywhere. He's gonna shoot for he's gonna go for submissions, but guess what? Sholinian's a better wrestler. He's the one that probably does dictate where this fight takes place. And if Munoz is on the bottom and he can't get the submission, like I said, he's not going to look minus 235. So if you're on that Munoz side, maybe play him by sub plus 375. And if you're on Sholinian by decision at plus 225, that's it. Dude, he's plus 200 on the money line, and these fucking pricks are only having him at plus 225 by decision. Shame on Bet Online. You know what the difference in implied probability between plus 200 and plus 225 is? Let's get it here. 200 33.33. 225, 30.77. A 2.5 move, 2.5% move in implied probability. So I'm going to look for a Liudivik Sholinian, maybe plus 350, plus 400 line on a more reputable book, and that doesn't screw you on props like Bet Online tends to. So, and all lines here, courtesy of Bet Online, by the way. The pick is going to be Johnny Munoz Jr. by submission. I get. Oh, fuck. Really? You know what? Yeah. I am going Liudivik Sholinian by decision, and I'm picking Johnny Munoz Jr. to be this week's Chase Hooper. He's got a lot of similarities to Chase Hooper, doesn't he? A pure grappler that we need to get into the grappling exchanges, but maybe not the best wrestling. Dude shot 20 takedowns on Nate Maness and only got one. Yeah, man. Liudivik Sholinian by decision, upset pick here. And like I said, I might be looking to sprinkle that super small at like plus 400 here. But Munoz by submission is the way that I would play the Munoz side in this fight. Next one, you guys, is Jinh Frey versus Polyana Viana. Jinh Frey, the underdog, plus 125. Viana, minus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 200. Let's get these stats up here. So the first thing that's going to jump out here is that Polyana Viana has lovely measurables advantages here. She's 7 years younger than Jinh Frey, 2 inches taller, and a 2-inch reach advantage. Jinh Frey southpaw, Polyana Viana orthodox. So both fighters' power weapons will be open for business while they're on the feet. The pro experience looks similar in terms of number of pro fights, but Jinh Frey has about 140 more minutes in the or in the pro cage in comparison to Polyana Viana, and about almost 1 more year as a professional fighter. But it's Viana who has 2 more UFC level fights, but then again, Jinh Frey almost always goes to decision. So 72 minutes in 5 fights for Jinh Frey, 55 minutes in 7 fights for Viana. So, about 17 more minutes in the UFC cage for Jinh Frey. But, Frey, I would have to give the experience advantage because she has 1 more fight, because she's got 140 more minutes in the pro cage and a little more time in the UFC cage. But it's Viana who's got a 100% finish rate as a professional, and Jinh Frey who's got a 27% finish rate as a professional. Only 3 wins inside the distance as a pro, 2 by submission, 1 by knockout. Polyana Viana in 5 professional losses has been subbed once, but she's never been knocked out. While Jinh Frey has been subbed once at the UFC level, but she's been finished 3 times in 7 professional losses. The better striker should be Jinh Frey, but even when I watch these ladies strike, it's not just looking at the numbers, which indicate that Polyana actually lands more significant strikes per minute than she absorbs, that she actually has a superior striking defense, that she throws more volume than her opponents do, while Frey throws a lot less volume than her opponents do. Jinh Frey is probably the better striker on the feet here. If this were a 15-minute boxing match, I think that Jinh Frey probably beats Polyana, but I like Polyana's striking. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. For a woman who really depends on her grappling in order to win fights, she's got decent hands. I like the punches come straight down the pipe, and because she's such a confident grappler, she can be aggressive on the feet. She usually has a reach advantage over her opponents, but she doesn't use it because she tends to walk forward, throwing in combination. So when it comes to the stylistic striking matchup here, as much better I think that Frey is, I think Viana maybe even wins the striking exchanges in this fight. And then when it gets to the ground, I think Jinh can get takedowns whenever she wants them. Polyana Viana will, fold like a lawn chair if you try to take her down, because you're giving her what she wants. She wants to be on her back, and she wants to be throwing up that trademark armbar submission that she always tries to get. And if Jinh Frey tries to take her down, she's going to have to worry about that. We saw Kay Hansen get a belly down armbar against Jinh Frey in the third round of Kay Hansen's actually UFC debut. So Viana is probably not going to be able to take down Jinh Frey. She's shown great takedown defense, almost 89%, stopping 24 of 27 takedowns. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think Viana's going to pressure. I think she's going to throw with power, throw in combination, and maybe force Jinh Frey to shoot a takedown. And when she does, I think she's going to work for those submissions. And I think that there's a decent likelihood that she could get the submission here. I like the finish only prop for Polyana Viana. The problem is it's juiced to the tits up at like minus 250. So I don't really think it's bettable. But I still think that there's a very, very, very small likelihood that Jinh Frey finishes Polyana. So because of that, I think it's one of those bets where you're laying juice, but there might be like an 80% chance that this fight sees the score. I mean, like right now, you got fight doesn't go to decision sitting at plus 200. So they're saying 33.33% chance that this thing finishes inside the distance. So it's going to decision 2 out of 3 times. And Polyana Viana's never won a decision in her life. That's the problem here. So maybe Jinh Frey decision only prop when that opens up on UFC on DraftKings, that could be a decent look. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure that Jinh Frey does enough on the feet to even win in the striking exchanges here. Both of these ladies' strength of schedule is not good. Neither one of them has impressive wins, and neither one of them really has impressive losses. But I think Viana can be a little bit better on the feet, a little more active. And I think that Viana can be a little more dangerous in the grappling exchanges here, even if she does choose to lose minutes on the ground. But we'll have to see how confident Jinh Frey is in her submission defense. Is she going to try to take down Polyana? Because that'll be the safest way to win minutes if she can avoid the armbar. Because Poly is giving up 45.5% control time. She got less than 50% takedown. In these 7 fights, she's been taken down 8 times. So just over 1 time per fight. But she's giving up almost 50% control time. So that just goes to show you that she's like jumping guard, getting reversed when she gets takedowns, just giving up control time willingly to go for that finish, which is how she finishes fights. Do I think that she can finish Jinh Frey? Yes, I think that that's definitely a possibility. Am I going to bet Polyana Viana, who's just arriving in Vegas, maybe late night tonight, and counting on her having the stamina to go the full 3 rounds and to grapple as aggressively as she does and to be throw as much volume as she does on the feet? I don't think I can really count on that. I think I'm going to stay away from this fight. But I think that Polyana wins this one just because I don't really see where Jinh wins the minutes safely here. Polyana's finished all of those wins. So if Jinh does want to take her down and win minutes, which is the easy way. Take her down, get her down. That's easy. Avoiding the submission, not so easy once you're there against Poly. So we'll have to see how it goes. But I'm going to pick Polyana Viana to win this one by first round armbar. So I think at plus 200 for the fight doesn't go to decision, I think we could actually see that be a decent play here. And armbar from guard is still a possibility in women's MMA, and I'm calling it here. It's how Polyana wins, and I don't think that Jinh, we've seen her lose by armbar before, and I don't think that she wins enough on the feet here in order to be betting her. So, yeah, Polyana Viana by sub is what? Viana inside the distance is plus 275. Viana by sub is plus 350. 350 for Viana by sub, I think, is a decent look. I think there's some decent sub props on this card. But, yeah, Viana by first round sub is what we're looking at here. The next fight is going to be one of California's finest real estate agents Benito Lopez at plus 250, squaring off against Mario Bautista minus 290. Fight doesn't go to decision, is right there at a pick'em at minus 115. So let's get these stats up. Bautista Lopez. So we've got Benito Lopez with a size advantage here and a youth advantage, as he's about a year younger, an inch taller. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage, and they're both switch stance fighters. I don't think Benito Lopez is at Team Alpha Male anymore. I think he's working someplace else. And Bautista coming out of the MMA lab in Arizona. So Bautista's got the experience advantage here with one more fight and a half more minute in the pro cage, and he's just been a lot more active, fighting more than twice a year, while Benito Lopez has taken the last 3 years off and has not even had a fight scheduled in that time. Bautista, a couple more fights at the UFC level and an identical amount of UFC cage time. He is the better finisher as Bautista, as he's finished 2 of his 4 UFC wins and 7 of his 10 pro wins, while Lopez has not finished any of his UFC wins, and he's only finished 5 of his 10 pro wins. Benito has been submitted in his only loss, and Bautista has been subbed once and knocked out once at the UFC level. So in these guys' 3 combined professional and UFC losses, they've been finished in all 3. Bautista, really nice numbers on the feet here. Lands 5.26, absorbs 3.96, and then he throws about almost 2 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents do. He's got 1 knockdown in 6 fights. Lopez, he absorbs about 0.3 more significant strikes per minute than he lands. And his opponents are throwing more volume than him as well. He's also landed 1 knockdown. They have an identical amount of knockdowns per 15 minutes, but it's Bautista who's absorbed twice as many knockdowns per 15 minutes as Benito Lopez. As he's been knocked down 192 twice, and Lopez has been knocked down once. In the grappling, it's Bautista who's actually done a much better job of getting fights to the ground, keeping them there, and winning minutes there. Bautista has attempted 11 takedowns. His opponents have attempted 15, yet he outcontrols his opponents at almost a 2-to-1 ratio, and he's gotten 2 more takedowns than his opponents. Getting his takedowns at a 63% clip is very impressive, and 20% control time, 11.3% control time allowed. Benito Lopez prefers to keep the fight standing. About 84% of his UFC cage time thus far has taken place at standing range here. He has not attempted a takedown at the UFC level. His opponents have attempted 14, and he's got 78.5% takedown defense. It's Bautista who's fought the much better brand of competition here with the much better ratio and the much better ratio in the wins. I like Bautista a lot here. You want to talk about red flags? How about a guy who hasn't fought in 3 years and has been working as a realtor? Sound familiar? Al Iaquinta going out there and getting finished by Bobby Green, who doesn't finish anybody in the very first round. Benito is only 28, though. I suppose he could have been making huge improvements, but we don't have access to any of that information here. And this guy, Bautista, has been looking fantastic. Even the Trevin Jones fight, he got clipped. But Jones hits extremely hard, a natural righty who fights southpaw, and he's got a lot of power in that lead right hand of his. Got clipped with a hook. But other than that, win by sub over Kelleher, where he looked amazing. Great decision win over Jay Perrin, where he just dominated Jay on the cage there. And you saw him in that first round kind of put Jay on the cage successfully, and he worked towards that game plan in the second and the third, realizing that it was an easy path to victory for him. The loss to Trevin Jones, but a knockout win over Johns, a win over Jin Soo Sun, really decent regional scene Korean fighter who actually took Peter Yan to decision at the UFC level. While Benito Lopez, very close wins at the UFC level over Steven Peterson, that close. Albert Morales, that close. Vince Morales, that close. Benito Lopez could be 0-4 at the UFC level. Very, very close fights in all 3 of his wins. But I got to go with Bautista here. I've seen Bautista here. Let's take a look here. How many fights has Bautista had? Since we've seen Lopez last, right? Let's take a look at that. So we haven't seen Benito Lopez since 2019. Mario Bautista has fought Jinsu's son, Miles Johns, Trevin Jones, Jay Perrin, and Brian Kelleher since then. And he's 4-1 in those 5 fights. And then the only loss before that was to Corey Sandhagen. So this guy is really good, man. And he's fought good guys, comes in and fights Sandhagen, got wins in LFA and Tachi and Combate prior to coming to the UFC. And I thought he looked fantastic against Kelleher. I think this is a really good spot for Mario Bautista. And we will see if the real estate agent has been serious. But if he's not even training at Alpha Male anymore, we can't count on Uriah shipping that bag to the judges for him. I think I like Mario Bautista to win this one. And I think I like him to win it by submission in the 2nd round. I think it's going to take a minute for him to break Lopez and make Lopez realize that maybe he should just go back to real estate and nobody's trying to choke you out in real estate, at least unless you're working Compton or something like that. But it'll be much easier. So, and if he comes in with that half blonde, half black haircut, man, I'm fucking backing up the truck and max betting Bautista. But Bautista by 2nd round submission is going to be the pick for this one. The next fight is going to be Shanna Young at plus 475 versus Miranda Maverick minus 650. No need to spend too much time on this one, you guys, as we've broken down this fight before. This fight was supposed to happen. I think Shanna might have stepped in on short. Let's look. Because what doesn't make sense is why they remade this fight. I mean, Shanna pulled out of the fight. And I don't know. I mean, maybe Miranda just wants the win bonus, but I don't know if this win does anything for her. So yeah, it was Shanna Young. She was supposed to fight Shanna Young, but it doesn't look like Shanna Young stepped in for anybody. Let's see here. Did Shanna step in? No. Why doesn't that even show? Maybe it was no, that was just the bout and it got canceled and for some reason they remade it. But this fight has already happened once, as we can see here. Shanna Young lost to Miranda Maverick by rear naked choke 235 in the 1st round. And what we did see was just, a situation where Miranda was much better on the ground than Shanna. Shanna's got the wrestling background, but she's not a great submission grappler by any stretch of the imagination. She was actually submitted by Sarah Alpar, who we saw get 7 shades of shit beaten out of her by just about everybody else that she fought at the UFC level. Sarah Alpar made Jessica Rose Clark look like a world beater. Yeah, I don't know what to do with this. And Shanna, looked good against another wrestler in Gina Mazzani, but she lost the 1st round there. And Gina did what she does, which is gas out after 1 round because Gina really has a hard time pacing herself. And I think she cuts entirely too much weight to make 125. And I think that wears on her conditioning as well. So this should be a very easy win for Miranda Maverick. But, a women's favorite that's juice up to minus 650. What could go wrong with putting her in your parlays, right? Absolutely nothing. We've never seen women's favorites at that price ever shit the bed Amanda Nunes, ever lose at that kind of price Maria Agapova. Let's just not even get into it. Miranda Maverick wins this fight by 1st round submission, I'm going to pick. I think this fight probably does finish inside the distance. And let's look at that prop template. The fight doesn't go to decision. is at plus 100 right now. That's overpriced by 9.26% when we compare it to the benchmark for the division, which tells us that they're finishing inside the distance about 40.7% of the time. We're paying 50%. But Shanna Young's and Miranda Maverick's fights are finishing inside the distance at the UFC level 5 of 9 times. That's 55.56%. When we subtract the implied probability of the line from that, we get 5.56% edge over the books there. And a 14.81% edge is how much these ladies finish better than the division, which is 55.56% in comparison to the divisional benchmark, which is 40.74%. If you want access to this prop template and all the analytics that come with it, join the Patreon. The link is in the description of the video. But the pick here is obviously going to be Miranda Maverick by first round submission. I think it plays out very much the same way that the last one did. Shanna has not shown good takedown defense, only 60%. She's got 4.42% control time and she's allowing 35% control time. So we can't trust her to not wind up underneath Miranda Maverick here. And if that happens, Miranda's probably getting to her back and choking her out. The next fight is going to be a really interesting one here as we go Darrick Minner at plus 180, squaring off against Shayilan Nuerdanbieke at minus 210. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 220. So is that right? No, that can't be right. Yeah, that is right. Minus 220 for the fight doesn't go to decision here. So Shayilan is 4 years younger, but is Darrick Minner, who's going to be 2 inches taller and have a 2-inch reach advantage here. We got a ridiculous amount of experience here as Minner's got 39 professional fights. And in only a 6.5-year career, Shayilan Nuerdanbieke has 48 fights. Some of these Chinese dudes were fighting once a month. I swear to God, when I was looking at Aricha Lang, when I was doing the research for the Jay Perrin interview before they fought, I was looking at Aricha Lang's record, and this dude was fighting literally every goddamn month. January, February, March, April, May. He fought like 13 times in 1 year. And Shayilan's another one of these guys that has done that on the Chinese regional scene. Now that he's come here to the UFC, he's definitely fighting a lot more deliberately, and he's using his wrestling to win minutes. This guy has god-awful striking. He just throws heavy overhand rights and uses it to close the distance to set up his wrestling. Absolutely pitiful striking. Darrick Minner actually has better striking than this guy, Shayilan. But yeah, both of these guys are very experienced. It's just that both these guys have been very active. But even though Darrick Minner is fighting about 4 times a year, which makes him the second most active fighter on this card, Shayilan is the most active fighter on this card with 6.5 years of a record and 48 fights. So, but at the UFC level, they have a similar amount of cage time. It's just Minner has 3 more fights. Minner is a finisher. He's finished 89% of his 26 wins inside the distance. That's 23 of 26 wins, and 22 of those wins are by submission. 1 of them is by knockout. While Shayilan has about 47% knockout rate, 26% submission rate, but at the UFC level, this guy's not finishing anybody. He's just looking to lay and pray. He's been finished in 8 of his 10 pro losses, has Shayilan, and Darrick Minner has been finished in 85% of his 13 losses, 11 of 13 losses inside the distance for Minner. So that's why you see a fight doesn't go to decision sitting up at minus 220. It's a lot, and it's a lot to pay, but the finish equity is mostly on one side here. It's mostly on that Minner side, and he's the underdog, so it makes it an interesting betting spot here. Got striking for both, but Minner's striking is better. But these guys, as we can see here, Shayilan, 57% of his UFC cage time spent in grappling positions. And for Minner, it's actually over 75% of his UFC cage time, 48 minutes spent in grappling positions here. I love this spot for Darrick Minner. He's got the much better strength of schedule, as you can see here. He's got the better wins, although neither one of them has great wins. And he's got the better losses. He's the far better submission grappler. He's not really at an experience deficit. He's taller. He's longer. Not too old for the division at 32. Better finisher. But Shayilan, definitely the much better minute winner, as he just kind of like I said, he's a lay and prey grappler. He's a one-dimensional lay and prey grappler, but he's done an excellent job of it. So, you know, I think if you're betting Shayilan Nuerdanbieke and you don't want to lay that minus 210, I would just take the decision prop on this guy. And hopefully these pricks at Bet Online didn't put it at minus 190 and just tell us to fuck off. But Nuerdanbieke by decision is plus 235. What? That's wild. That's absolutely wild that you could get the Nuerdanbieke by decision at plus 235 because he's never won a UFC fight inside the distance. Not once. And Minner will go for submissions, but just because, you know, he doesn't get them, it doesn't mean that Shayilan's going to finish him. I think the best side to be on, if you're on that Nuerdanbieke side, just take that decision prop. He could finish Minner because Minner might gas out, but this is a different Darrick Minner. Now that he's at the UFC level, he's taking these fights a lot more seriously. And don't forget, Darrick Minner was a guy that was fighting 4 times a year as well. So he's a lot more likely to go out there, balls to the wall in round 1 and go all or nothing. And then if he doesn't get the submission, just tap out to whatever the first submission attempt is in the second round and quit. But now that he's at the UFC level, he's worked on that conditioning. We saw him go a full 3 rounds against Charles Rosa and easily win a bunch of minutes on the ground here. And I just think he's a much more dangerous submission grappler here. I think Nuerdanbieke by decision is a good pick, but I think what I'm picking here is Darrick Minner to win by first round submission. I think he's going to go for that guillotine. I don't think Nuerdanbieke is going to know what to do. If he doesn't want to take down Darrick Minner, I think he's going to look like absolute trash on the feet. And I think that if he doesn't try to take down Darrick Minner, that Minner is just going to shoot in on him. And then he's just going to start chaining submission attempts together. We've seen Shayilan Nuerdanbieke be submitted 6 times in his professional career, and not by grapplers the level of Darrick Minner. The guys who have submitted Shayilan Nuerdanbieke as a professional are as follows. Household names, all of them. He got knocked out cold by Zhu Rong. He got submitted by triangle by Alisson Barbosa, 12-6. He got submitted by Ruslan Emilbek in Chin Woo Men, 445 round 3. He lost a unanimous decision to Yibu Gale. He got submitted by Brian Tadeo, 0-1 in WLF Wars. He got submitted by Maceo Silva, 11-4. This is in 2017. Hao Zhao must have submitted him, and then Nuerdanbieke Bahisian by Von Fluchok. Dude, if you're giving up Von Fluchokes, that's a bad thing, man. Who holds on to guillotines that long? So I'm picking Darrick Minner to win this fight by first round submission. And I think Darrick Minner by first round submission is something that I'm going to bet, and I'm going to try to get plus 600 or better. I think right now Bet Online's got it at plus 550, but I think it's a very good look. And Minner by submission round 1, I think is this guy Shayilan. It reminds me of the Andre Muniz versus Bartosz Fabinski fight, where Fabinski just counts on his wrestling in order to win minutes. And if he can't win minutes in the wrestling, he's not going to win minutes. So even when he fights a talented submission grappler, he has no choice but to grapple because he doesn't even know how to strike. So I think this is a bad matchup for Shayilan. I would not lay juice on him. If I was going to bet Shayilan Nuerdanbieke to win this fight, man, oh man, would I fucking go after that decision prop. It beats the shit out of paying juice on this guy who's very one-dimensional. So let's go Darrick Minner. I'm sorry, guys, I haven't been paying attention to the comments at all. I'm just trying to get through these fights. Just want to make sure I didn't miss any donations or anything else. Because I know I missed my guy Daz Files donation last week, and I felt like a prick after I saw it, after I signed out. So, yeah, okay, good. We did not miss anything. All right, you guys, next fight is going to be Maxim Grishin against Jailton Almeida, and that one is canceled. So the fight after that is going to be Madsen against Grant Dawson. This is a great fight. I can't wait to talk about this one. So as we can see right here, Grant Dawson, 10 years younger, 2 inches taller, and they have the same reach. Grant Dawson switches stances. Mark Madsen is orthodox. We got Grant Dawson with the experience advantage. 8 more fights, 40 more minutes in the pro cage, while Madsen has 1 more year as a pro. So Grant Dawson has been the far more active fighter as well. And it's Grant Dawson who also has the UFC experience advantage here with 4 more UFC fights and about 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. We got Grant Dawson with a big-time finish rate. He's finished 16 of his 18 wins inside the distance. That is a 92% finish, or I'm sorry, it's an 88% finish rate as a professional, and he has finished 71% of his UFC wins, 5 of his 7 wins, 4 by submission, 1 by knockout. And he's been knocked out in his only pro loss, but he's never lost at the UFC level. Madsen's finished 1 of his 4 UFC wins, and he's finished 50% of his 12 pro wins. When it comes to the striking, I like Madsen striking a lot more. The one thing that we have seen Mark Madsen do at the UFC level that we haven't seen Grant Dawson do is win a striking match. He did it against Vince Pichel, and he did it against Clay Guida. I mean, he took down Austin Hubbard several times and won that fight with his wrestling, but let's face it, he got 0 takedowns against Clay Guida and won a unanimous decision due to his striking. He struck with Vince Pichel for the entire first round, barely mixed in the wrestling at all until later on in the fight. So we've seen Mark Madsen win striking exchanges with credible strikers in Guida and Pichel. We've never seen Grant Dawson win any striking exchanges at the UFC level, and I don't think we'll ever have to. Grant Dawson is a master of getting your back, and if he does it in 2 out of 3 rounds, you're not going to win the fight. Look, Rick Glenn got taken down in round 1, got his back taken. Got taken down in round 2, got his back taken. Lost those 2 rounds. Had a dominant round 3, a 10-8 round 3. Still couldn't finish the fight. Couldn't beat Grant Dawson. If Grant Dawson gets you down in 2 of those 3 rounds, you're staying down, and he's a master of getting the back. He's going to get that body triangle in, and he's just going to keep you there for the rest of the round. He's a great minute winner. Dawson lands more significant strikes than he absorbs, but we can also see here that he's spending 63% of his UFC cage time of almost 100 minutes in control time positions, and he's winning like 85% of those control time positions. So he's a dominant wrestler and back take grappler. Madsen is an Olympic level Greco-Roman wrestler. Different type of wrestling. This is an upper body type of wrestling. Really got to work hard for these takedowns. It's throws, it's suplexes. You're not really going to be attacking legs in Greco-Roman wrestling. You're not going to be shooting single or double leg takedowns. So a lot of those more traditional folk style wrestling techniques, which of course Madsen has. He has those techniques. It's just that, when he was wrestling at an Olympic level, he was doing it using Greco-Roman techniques and competing in a Greco-Roman rule set. So Madsen is also an excellent wrestler, and we can see that he's only allowed 1.73% control time, and that's in a 46-minute cage time, and against really good wrestlers in Clay Guida and Vince Pichel, and even Austin Hubbard's a guy with a good wrestling background on the regional scene that you'll see Austin Hubbard using that wrestling of his, guy who trained with Pat Miletich for a time, actually. So Madsen's fought good wrestlers and has not allowed any of them to control him, but they've only attempted 2 takedowns. Now, Grant Dawson has attempted 72 takedowns in 8 UFC fights. So we can count on Grant to do what he does, which is stay out of the striking exchanges and get it to the grappling. And then once he gets those takedown attempts, he chains them together, and he's not even worried so much about getting you down as he is about getting to your back, where he can stay, where he can win a ton of minutes and potentially get a submission, which he's been very good at. So Madsen, I think, wins the striking exchanges here. If Madsen can stop Grant Dawson's entries, keep him in front of him, turn this into a boxing match. I mean, I think Mark Madsen looks minus 150, minus 160 on the feet here against Grant Dawson. Dawson has fought the better brand competition in terms of ratio. When I look at the wins, it's the same thing. Better ratio for Dawson, more experienced opponents for Mark Madsen here. Man, it's a good fight. Madsen's been training at Fight Ready. His cage wrestling is going to be excellent. His Greco-Roman wrestling is already excellent, and he's done a great job of not being controlled by his opponents. So is Grant Dawson going to be able to get this dude's back? Because he's the one taking this fight on short notice. Madsen was supposed to fight Drakkar Klose, and now he's fighting Dawson, who stepped in for Klose after Klose tore his ACL. So I do like Grant Dawson to win this fight. I think Grant Dawson wins this fight by decision because I think he gets to Mark Madsen's back twice. And Madsen isn't the type of guy. I mean, he can finish with his strikes. I don't know if he can do it at this level, though. And I think if he ever really starts hurting Mark, he's just going to have to wrestle. I think if he ever starts hurting Grant on the feet, he's just going to have to wrestle with him. And I think Grant is going to be safe there, because Grant is somebody who's got fantastic MMA wrestling, fantastic MMA grappling, and the proof's in the pudding. 18-1-1 as a professional, 20 professional fights, 8 UFC fights. He's never been defeated. This guy is a master of winning rounds using his grappling, and that's something that Mark Madsen does really well when he's at his best. But Dawson's taking this fight on short notice. I don't think he's better in the striking exchanges. And if he fades, if he has trouble making weight and he fades against Mark Madsen, I think that's going to be a serious problem here as well. So I wouldn't lay this juice on Grant Dawson, but I am going to pick him to win this fight by decision. Grant Dawson by decision is the pick. And it hurts me to pick against my Danes because I am partially of Danish descent here, but it's going to be interesting to see how Madsen deals with somebody that's actually going to try to wrestle him, that's actually going to try to grapple him, it's going to try to submit him. We're going to find out what that grappling defense is like. And we know he's been drilling it because he's known that Dawson's been his opponent now for about 2 weeks, but it's not quite enough time because he was training for Drakkar Klose. We got 4 more fights to go here, you guys. The next one is going to be Tagir Ulanbekov going up against Nate Maness. These guys are similar in age. Oh, and let me get the banner up here for you guys. So, by the way, Madsen is plus 190. So that's a nice plus money number there. Grant Dawson minus 225. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 155. And then in the Tagir Ulanbekov fight, we have the exact same fight doesn't go to decision here at plus 155. Maness, a big underdog at plus 184. Ulanbekov minus 214. So the first thing we're going to see is that Maness is 3 inches taller and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. And that's not surprising because this fight is taking place at 125 and Nate Maness has fought as high as 155 in his career. He's got fights at 145. His UFC experience thus far has been at 135. Now he's making the cut down to 125. A 5'10" guy with a 72-inch reach. Look, Tagir Ulanbekov is a big flyweight at 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. And you see how all skin and bones that dude is. Askar Askarov, who's missed weight in 2 of his last 4 fights, where you see the dude's ribs in the back, that guy's 5'7". How the hell is Nate Maness going to make 126 at 5'10"? I have no idea how he's going to make this weight. He already looks, really lean at 135. So that's a big problem for me because Tagir is a guy who's winning 46% of his UFC cage time and control time positions, and he's a guy with a 42% takedown accuracy. And Nate Maness has been controlled at 135, mind you, by some really good grapplers in Nurmagomedov, Tony Gravely, Luke Sanders, Johnny Munoz. All those guys are good grapplers. Very good. but they're 135ers. So is Tagir going to be able to take this guy and hold him down? Does he have that kind of positional skill and position over submission grappling to do that? The answer is yes. He does a very good job of it. He's only got 61% takedown defense, and he's been taken down 7 times. But at that rate, you'd expect it to be about a 1.5 to 1 control time ratio. That is how many takedowns he has to his opponent's attempts and how many takedowns he has to his opponents. About 1.5 to 1. But he's out controlling his opponents at better than a 6 to 1 ratio. So Tagir Ulanbekov is a minute winner in the grappling exchanges. Nate's a dude who's got a ton of power on the feet. We've seen Tagir get dropped once in 3 fights. 54% striking defense is way better than Maness at 40%. I'll tell you that. Maness gets hit too much, but Nate's got power, man. He's got 2 knockdowns in 4 fights. He's got a win by knockout over Gravely. He definitely has got heavy hands here. He knocked down Sanders and then subbed him. So definitely a guy that can, if this fight is standing and if the power translates after that horrific weight cut. But this fight is a 1-800 gambler fight for me because I need to see Nate Maness on the scales. Until I see him on the scales at making 126, looking good, whatever, I can't really bet him. And I don't want to weigh minus 214 on Ulanbekov, and then be like, tune in on weigh-in day and be like, holy shit, Nate looks good. Nate could make this cut. The reason Nate made this cut is because he knew it was possible and he knew he would be. And then I'm like, fuck, man. Now I'm giving up minus 214. And I gotta count on that a 125er is going to be able to take down Maness and hold him down like, Gravely and Sanders and Munoz tried to. And Umar Nurmagomedov certainly did successfully. But Maness has fought the better brand of competition too, and he's fighting up a weight class and getting those wins up a weight class. But he is a moment winner rather than a minute winner. I think if Nate Maness wins this fight, it's going to be inside the distance. So I think potentially a finish-only prop on Maness could be an interesting look in this fight because I don't really see Tagir finishing dudes at this level. Now, he could if Nate has a horrible weight cut. But Maness scorecards no action is minus 145, but he's a plus 184 underdog. So they see the same thing. The bookies are on it. They understand that Nate's best chance to win this fight is to finish it, and that Tagir's best chance to win this fight is probably to win it by decision. Ulanbekov by decision, only minus 105. So yeah, the bookies are definitely onto it. They think Ulanbekov by decision, or they think Maness by inside the distance. But I'm missing information here. I don't really want to make this pick because I haven't seen Nate on the scale. But prior to seeing him on the scale, I can't count on the power. I'm just going to pick Ulanbekov by decision. But let's just say I reserve the right to change that pick on Friday night if I see something I like from Nate on the scale. Because if Nate has a good weight cut, I'm probably just jumping on that plus 184 money line, just putting a unit on it and saying Tagir's not great. He's not great, man. You lose to Tim Elliott at 125. That is a fucking bad look right now. Tim's a very, very experienced fighter, well-rounded, really unorthodox striking, good wrestling, but not a great gas tank. He doesn't pace himself well. Not really a finisher at this level either. And Tagir lost to him. So I know that Tim was cheating a little bit, maybe some veteran moves, a cagey veteran moves, but either way, man, if you're not getting a guy like Tim Elliott out of there, you're not high level. And I can't count on him to win this fight if Nate actually looks good on the scales, but I'm really worried about how Nate looks here. So that's the read here. Ulanbekov by decision. The next fight, the people's main event, Chase Sherman going up against the originator of the spinning fat kick, Josh Parisian. Plus 112 for Parisian. Money coming in here on the Chase Sherman side. He's minus 132. fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to minus 325 here. So let's look at these stats for this fight. Now, I see this as being mostly, a striker versus striker matchup. Parisian has been controlled a lot. I mean, he got absolutely dog-walked on the ground by Dante O'Mays, and Parker Porter took him down and was able to control him on the ground. But Parisian, when he gets his opponents down, does a really good job on top. Looked good against Alan Badeau there. Tried to get Roque Martinez down a lot. Had a little bit of success doing it, but Roque gave him hell on the feet. If we look at the size here, we got very similar numbers here. Very similar age, similar height, similar reach. They're both orthodox fighters. Sherman 6 more fights, but only about 15 more minutes in the cage, less than a year more as a pro. And he's got a UFC experience advantage here as well, with about 75 more minutes in the UFC cage. And so I like Sherman's experience. The Sherman's the better finisher, but both these guys have finished really at a really high rate. 94% for Sherman, 86% for Parisian, and they're both have been finished in 60% of their professional losses. Chase has been finished in 5 of 9 UFC losses, and Josh has been finished in 1 of 2 UFC losses. Chase lands exactly as much as he absorbs. 849 significant strikes landed, 849 absorbed. He throws almost as much volume as his opponents. He keeps his fight standing about 89% of the time. He has not attempted a UFC takedown. Chase wants to keep this fight standing, use his length, use his leg kicks, use his power, use his boxing. That's what he's here to do. He's not going to surprise us by turning into a grappler on Saturday. Parisian throws a lot more unorthodox techniques, the spinning fat kicks, the spinning fat fists. He's definitely unorthodox, and he will mix in the grappling here, and he would be wise to do so. Chase is a fish out of water on the ground. He got absolutely drowned by Fat Collier on the ground. He got killed by Alexander Romanov on the ground, but so does everybody else. No big deal there. But Chase, gave up takedowns to Parker Porter and wound up losing. But I just want to show you guys, if we just dig a little bit deeper into the stats here, right? Chase Sherman's got a shit ton of losses. Alexander Romanov, Fat Collier, Parker Porter, Andrei Arlovsky, Augusto Sakai, Justin Willis, Shamil Abdurrahimov, Walt Harris, and Justin Ledette. Now, if you see the blue there, you will see what's very interesting here is those white lines are the ones that are the wins. And we're looking here at the takedowns and the takedowns attempted of his opponents. Every fight that Chase Sherman has lost, he's been taken down in. He's got a 100% loss rate when he gets taken down. As a matter of fact, he's only won 1 fight at the UFC level where his opponent even attempted a takedown. And that was Damian Grabowski, who's terrible. Damian went 0-5 on his takedown attempts, but that's the only fight that Chase Sherman won out of the 4 wins where somebody even attempted a takedown. 3 takedown attempts here, 3 for 3, 1 for 1, 1 for 8, 1 for 1, 1 for 2, 0 for 1, 0 for 0. So 2 guys did beat him on the feet. It was Ledette and it was Abdurrahimov. Walt Harris actually shot a takedown. That's hilarious. Walt Harris is not a grappler, but he shot a takedown. So Chase Sherman loses fights when he gets takedown, wins fights when his opponents don't control him and don't attempt takedowns. Plain and simple. So Chase wants to keep this fight standing. Now, Josh has gotten some control time here. He got 189 seconds out of Badeau. He got 269 seconds against Roque. But he lost here. He only got 21 seconds of control time. He lost here. He only got 28 seconds of control time against Parker Porter. And then he had some control time against Chad Johnson. But Chad Johnson's like a 185er. Rebello, another small heavyweight. So, in these fights where he's getting takedowns, 3 out of 4 takedowns against Vidal, 1 out of 7 takedowns against Roque Martinez. He's won both fights where he gets a takedown. So this basically comes down to, can Josh Parisian get a takedown here? And if he does, he's got a really good chance to win this fight. If he doesn't, Chase Sherman's got a really good chance to win this fight. Because I think Chase will be the better minute winner at range on the feet. If he doesn't get clipped with a spinning fat fist or anything like that, I think he'll be fine on the feet. But if Josh gets this fight to the ground, it's going to be the type of fight that Chase isn't going to operate well in, because if you make Chase grapple, he's going to get tired quicker. And if he gets tired quicker, the power goes away. And if the power goes away for Chase, he's only won 1 decision in his entire career. So it's going to be very difficult for Chase to be able to do that. He does have 1 decision win here at the UFC level. It's the only one that he's gotten in his entire career. So, yeah, the pick is going to be Chase Sherman. I think he's going to win this one by decision, actually. Josh Parisian is very, very durable. And I think that he'll make this greasy enough to not be in the striking exchanges for long enough that Chase gets an accumulation of leg kicks and face shots that actually ends Parisian. But so because Parisian's so tough, I think he makes it to decision here. And I actually think that at plus 250, the fight goes to decision is worth a look, you guys. If we go to the prop template here, and we look at the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 325, that's an implied probability of 76%. Heavyweight fights only finish inside the distance 63% of the time. And Josh Parisian and Chase Sherman fights at the UFC level are only finishing 63% of the time. So we're overpaying by about 13% there. Here at plus 250, we're underpaying by 8.67% when we compare it to the benchmark, and 8.27% when we compare it to the decision rate of both of these fighters, which is 7 of 19. It's 36.84%. We're paying 28%. And plus, Parisian's durable. And I mean, Parisian's not finishing dudes unless they have no grappling, unless he can get them to the ground. And he could be able to do that against Chase Sherman, but 4 of 13 on his takedowns. He's not good at getting takedowns. His wrestling isn't good. And Chase's takedown defense on the aggregate isn't horrible. And he's only being controlled for 8% of his UFC cage time. And Josh is only getting 16% control time in his own right. So if he's going to struggle to get control time, and he doesn't control, in a 900-second fight, he's going to need more than 90 seconds of control time to finish Chase Sherman probably. So, yeah, I like Chase Sherman to win this one by decision. I think that plus 250, that's not a bad look for fight goes to decision, because I don't know if either one of these guys is skilled enough to finish the other. I think it's going to be a really greasy fight here. So let's look at Chase Sherman by decision and see what that is. Sherman by decision plus 350. It opened at plus 350. It went to plus 400. Then it got back down to plus 350. Interesting. Parisian by decision plus 400. Parisian by KO plus 285. Yeah, the pick is going to be Chase Sherman by decision, everybody. The next fight is going to be Neil Magny versus D-Rod, Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez checking in at minus 105. Neil Magny at minus 115. Fight doesn't go to decision at plus 170. Let's bring up the stats for this fight. Neil Magny is going to be the taller and longer dude here. They're both 35 years old, but Neil is 2 inches taller, and he's got a 6-inch reach advantage. And it's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup here. Elevation fight time for Magny. Tap out LA, 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu for Daniel Rodriguez. 15 more pro fights for Magny. About 230 more minutes in the pro cage and about 5 more years as a pro. He's also got 17 more fights at the UFC level and about 240 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's going to be Rodriguez who's the better finisher, but by not much. 38% at the UFC level, 34% for Magny. So neither one of these guys is finishing a lot at the UFC level here. 40% overall finish rate for Magny as a pro, and a 71% finish rate for D-Rod. It's been Magny, who's been not very durable, as he's been finished in 6 of 8 UFC losses and in 7 of 9 pro losses, while Daniel Rodriguez has never been finished in his 2 professional losses. Almost undefeated, this dude. And it's both of these guys doing a great job of winning minutes with their striking, as Magny lands about 1.4 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents, and Daniel Rodriguez lands about 2.2 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents do. Both these guys are pretty accurate, but it's Rodriguez who's a lot more powerful and Magny who's a lot more chinny, as Magny's absorbed 8 knockdowns in 26 fights, while Rodriguez has only been knocked down once in 9 fights. When we get to the grappling here, we see that Rodriguez's fights are taking place standing 89% of the time, while Magny's fights are taking place in grappling positions about 54% of the time. So Magny's only in the center of the cage at striking range about 46% of the time. So I think that this is interesting, right? Because I think Magny knows that the fight that Daniel Rodriguez wants is a distance striking match. But Neil's been successful getting fights to the cage, really wearing on his opponents, using his conditioning as a weapon, mixing in takedown attempts. 130 takedown attempts in 26 fights is over 5 takedowns. It's about 5 takedown attempts per fight. He's gotten 53 of them. He averages 2.31 takedowns per 15 minutes and gets about 22% control time. And he gets controlled about 32% of the time, as he's been taken down 39 times on 91 attempts, 57% takedown defense. It's been pretty easy to take down and hold down, and he's been a pretty easy guy to control and win minutes off of. However, that's not D-Rod. He's gotten 6 takedowns in 9 fights, but he's only managed 2% control time. So that's 2.08 minutes on 6 takedowns. So even when he gets a takedown, he gets about 20 seconds of control time per takedown. And some of that is cage control time, so it's even less than that. So Daniel's really not looking to win minutes with his grappling. He will try to win moments and get submissions there, and he's won 4 of his 17 professional wins inside the distance by submission. He's got a great guillotine. I believe that's how he finished his UFC debut. I think it might have been against Tim Means. But either way, Rodriguez has got 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, man. Black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So he is going to be dangerous if Neil does try to mix in the grappling. If he does get sloppy, shooting a head on the outside single leg like Josh Frem did against Tresean Gore. Look, if Tresean Gore can submit a Josh Frem, then Daniel Rodriguez can submit Neil Magny, So if we look at the strength of schedule here, we see a better ratio for Rodriguez, but we see more experienced opponents for Magny. And in the wins, it's the same thing. Better ratio for Rodriguez, more experienced opponents for Magny. I think that they're really very similar in terms of the strength of schedule. But I like Magny's size. I like his experience. I like his ability to mix in the grappling and take the fights to different places. I like his conditioning. I like the fact that Rodriguez was on a super long layoff between the Li and Jing Liang fight and then the Kevin Lee fight and Li Jing Liang fight. And then when he came back for that Li Jing Liang fight, dude couldn't even come close to making 170. He had to ask for 180-pound catch weight. He was lucky that everything got shifted around because of the gourmet Chechen Hamza Kamayev showing up like a complete amateur, 10 pounds overweight for a main event fight. So I got to see Rodriguez make weight here. If it looks like Rodriguez is struggling to make weight, right, that he had a bad weight cut, and he's recently had wrist surgery. He's broken his hand a couple of times, 35 years old, been to prison a couple of times, so he's had a rough life, I think that a guy like Magny, who pushes the pace, who takes the fights to different levels, who tests your conditioning, tests your grappling defense, I think that he could win a scrappy decision here against D-Rod by not giving D-Rod the fight that he wants, which is a striking battle. And we can see that in the numbers here. We can see that 11% control time for Rodriguez, 89% in the center of the cage. That's what he wants. I don't think Neil's going to give it to him. So I think Neil Magny is going to win this. Plus, Marina Rodriguez against Amanda Lemos. Lemos supposed to be coming from Brazil tonight from Sao Paulo, I believe. That's not a short flight from Sao Paulo to Vegas. She's probably going to be on a plane for about 10 hours. But she's coming up tonight. Very interesting main event matchup here in the strawweight division. We have never seen Amanda Lemos go 5 rounds before, so that's going to be interesting here. But these ladies are the same age. Rodriguez a couple inches taller, but they have the same height, and it's an orthodox versus southpaw matchup. And both of these ladies have got power. Rodriguez a couple more professional fights. Amanda Lemos about 9 more months as a pro, but it's Rodriguez who's much more experienced in terms of cage time. 150 more minutes in the pro cage and 2 more fights at the UFC level and almost 100 more minutes in the UFC cage. So we like Rodriguez's height here, and we like the experience advantage that she has. Marina Rodriguez has finished 2 of 7 UFC wins. She finished Maria de Oliveira, and she finished Amanda Ribas, while Lemos has finished 4 of her 6 wins. Unfortunately, the wins for her, I mean, Michelle Waterson by sub was good, but then there's Montserrat Ruiz, there's Lavinia Sosa, and I forget who the other one was, but nothing that's, you know, going to blow your socks off. Is it Martin? Miranda Granger. So she finished a 1-3 Granger, a 1-1 Inoue was a decision. 3-3 Sosa was a finish. 1-1 Ruiz was a finish. Decision win over a 9-12 Angela Hill, and then submission win over a 6-6 Michelle Waterson. The losses come to Jessica Andrade and Leslie Smith at 135 pounds in her UFC debut. So it's a good fight here. When we look at the striking numbers, we see big power numbers from Amanda Lemos. She's landed 5 knockdowns in 8 fights. She's landing 1.34 knockdowns per 15 minutes, which is incredible for the women's strawweight division. Marina Rodriguez does have 2 knockdowns in her own right. 0.27% knockdowns per total significant defense is Rodriguez. The better significant strike differential by a mile is Rodriguez, and the better minute winning striking is going to be Marina Rodriguez. It's probably Lemos who's going to be landing the bigger shots. You know, this could be a little bit of Dustin Jacoby versus Khalil Roundtree, where Rodriguez lands 2 for every 1 and kind of just boxes up Lemos. But if Lemos actually is able to land 1 big shot in every round, maybe the judges will just overlook the fact that she lost most of the fight and just say she won it on damage. That's a possibility. But the problem here is that we've never seen Amanda Lemos go 5 rounds. We've seen Marina Rodriguez do it. And we've seen Marina Rodriguez do it against Mackenzie Dern when her grappling was being tested and when she was put in a couple of bad spots in the 2nd and the 4th round with Dern getting on top of her and working for submissions. So I think we can count on Marina Rodriguez's experience a little bit more here. I think we can count on Marina Rodriguez's strength of schedule advantage here. I think we can count on Marina Rodriguez's ability to win minutes in this fight. And we love the fact that in 19 professional fights, Marina Rodriguez has never been finished because Amanda Lemos really isn't winning decisions at this level convincingly. The Angela Hill fight could have easily went to Hill, and Angela Hill's 9-12, you know, at the UFC level. Marina Rodriguez is 7-1 with 2 draws at the UFC level. So, you know, Marina Rodriguez is the much more dangerous opponent. I like Marina here. I think she wins this fight. Like I say, the strength of schedule advantage is there. The striking minute winning advantage is there as long as, you know, Lemos doesn't land 1 huge shot in every round. The experience is on Marina's side. And the fact that Lemos, we can't really count on her to grapple effectively. And even if she does get to the grappling, even if she does take down Marina Rodriguez, I mean, if Mackenzie Dern's not submitting her, then I don't think Lemos is going to submit her. And we can't count on Lemos to do it because she's only gotten 4 takedowns in 8 fights. She's averaging 1 per 15 minutes and less than 16% control time. And she's got good takedown defense, but she's getting controlled 26% of her UFC cage time. So she's actually, despite the fact that she's gotten more takedowns than her opponent, she's almost getting out controlled at a 2-to-1 ratio. Marina has gotten 2 takedowns of her own, but she's yielded 15. So for every 1 takedown she gets, her opponents get 7.5. But she's being out controlled at about a little better than a 4-to-1 ratio. I don't see Lemos really being able to win enough minutes in grappling exchanges in a 5-round fight where she's going to have to be really mindful of her gas tank. I don't see her winning enough minutes to win a decision here. So I think the Marina Rodriguez decision-only prop is going to be something that I'm going to be looking at here. I like Marina Rodriguez to win this fight. Rounds 4-5 decision on FanDuel could be a good look this week. But the pick is going to be Marina Rodriguez to win this fight by decision, which gets us through all 12 of these fights. And let's hope all 12 of them happen. I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. We've obviously got a little bit more business to go here. We've got 55 of you guys hanging out live. Normally, this would be the part of the show where I show you my tracked bets for UFC Vegas 64, but there are none yet. I have not tracked any bets on this card yet. I'm looking at Darrick Minner by first-round submission. I'm going to be looking at the Chase Sherman Josh Parisian fight goes to decision at plus 250. I'm also looking at a straight Minner by sub bet, or even just a Minner straight money line underdog bet. I don't love this stylistic matchup for Shayilan, and if I'm getting big plus money on Minner's best win condition, which is that first round submission, I like that. I just haven't pulled the trigger yet. I want to see where DraftKings opens it. I want to see where FanDuel opens it. But that does leave us with one more order of business left, and it is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who's it going to be this week? What are we going to do? There's some really good candidates, but for instance, we've got Maverick Young, and I think Maverick absolutely shaves Shanna Young's ass, but Miranda Maverick is minus like 650, so you guys don't need me to tell you that. I think Hadley might shave Candelario's ass. I love this matchup for Hadley. We're not touching Vidal Pascual with a 10-foot pole. We're not touching Viana Frey with a 10-foot pole. We're not touching any of the women's fights with a 10-foot pole for the ass shaving of the week, which means that I have to go with my most solid read. It is my guy here that just said it in the chat. Mushroom and Victor de Jesus got it right. Bautista is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. A real estate agent on a 3-year hiatus from mixed martial arts who hasn't even been training that we know of, that hasn't even had a fight scheduled that we know of, no longer training at Team Alpha Male. The fights against lower level opponents back when he was training and was working at this were razor close. Benito Lopez has definitely got some skills, and he's still young and he's getting better. But like I say, Mario Bautista has fought 5 times since Lopez's last fight, and he's been 4-1 in those fights at the UFC level, fighting all guys that I would put as a favorite against Benito Lopez right now, including Jay Perrin, including Miles Johns, including even Jinsu's son. So, yeah, Mario Bautista to shave the ass of one real estate agent, Benito Lopez, is Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I'd like to thank all of you guys that hung out tonight, all 50 of you that were hanging out with us, breaking down all of these fights. UFC Vegas 64, not the best card in the world. Be careful. Keep it light this week. Let's find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks, but keep our powder dry for the much better card 2 weeks from now, which is going to be the Izzy versus Pereira UFC 281 event that's going down. God bless each and every one of you guys. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe on the way out. Join the Patreon for only $5 a month. It helps me be able to put as much time as I put into building these stats and providing this content for you guys. It's a great way to support your Uncle Weezy, and I'd appreciate it if you signed up for that. But thank you guys for watching. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 64. And then I will see you tomorrow night right here on Uncle Weezy's channel for Ask Weezy, where you guys can ask me any questions about this week's card or next week's card. If you want to get a head start on any research for next week, I'll come here, answer your questions, and we'll talk fights. But thank you guys. Talk to you guys soon, and we'll see you tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio at 6 o'clock for the DFS show, and right here at 10:30 Central Time for Ask Weezy. Good night, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow.